Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. Trying to figure out where to put this piece of paper. It's 1:24 p.m. on Friday, Shabbat Shalom, the 6th of March 2026. Today would have been my father, David Ian Phillips's birthday. So, happy birthday up in the, other worlds out there somewhere. I had a rather good run of it, a good day. I took myself off first thing this morning to take 2 buses to go to the Hurston Dental Hospital so I could have my 3D scans for what it's worth. And it wasn't so bad. I expected it to take an hour and a half travel time. Only took an hour, including, from the moment I left my front door, walk up the hill in the extreme feckin' humidity, wait for the bus, catch the bus. It all went very smoothly. So, and it wasn't so long coming home either, although I did stop off. I went to Australian Jewel Supplies, which are in the city, and I bought a big piece of copper sheet because I want to saw out a snake for my magical grimoire wooden book that Peter Sloan and I made together. I made it, but he kindly, he did do a lot of work too, credit where it's due. He cut out the pieces with the proper skill saw so I could have it all bolted together a bit more professionally. Do you want to see what I mean? It's nothing like seeing is believing, is it? I'll go and get it. I can't remember if I've shown it to you before. Let me just pop that there. But I'm very pleased with it. It was wonderful of Peter to help finish it off for me because I wasn't quite happy with how I made it and it wasn't professional enough. This is one of my wands I made some years ago, just out of a piece of branch from a tree, and on it I've got a piece of lapis lazuli, and I kept some claws from, I think they were from Zulu when he passed away. I can't remember now, they might be from my dog Bella. Well, anyway, I kept those, and I've got my guinea fowl feathers and a crow feather and a beautiful eagle feather, which I like to wear it in my hair, but anyway, I gifted it for the wand, and I added recently, the last time he shed his feather, Kermie's long green tail feather, and there's a tuft I snipped off my beautiful Bella, and a tuft of Zulu that I kept. So a big mojo. I don't really use it for magical purposes. I made it for that purpose, but I haven't actually ceremonially utilised it. But it's there if I want it, kind of thing. Always be prepared, like a Girl Scout. Right, so, but it's a beautiful wand. And then sometime later I made out of scraps of silk material that I bought in reverse garbage. I made a bag for it to be put away in the bag, but I like having it out on display actually. But I have the bag there if I want to put it away and not flagrantly advertise my witchiness, which is nothing to be ashamed of. I'm a Jew and a witch, and it's a bit weird and a bit complicated at times, but it is what it is. So I made kind of a template of a snake, not a very good one, but I made it so that it would go around. Actually, it was Peter's suggestion, which I was surprised, because he doesn't normally like to encourage me in my weird witchy ways, because he's a devout Christian by faith. But I thought that's interesting that he suggested that he saw that manifesting. He has got Norwegian ancestry, so I guess that inspiration came from our combined Viking ancestors, because it was a true Viking thing to say, why don't you put a snake up, curling up there to cover the holes, the extra holes that I had drilled. It would also mean I'd cover that up, but I guess I could put another little hole through the copper to hang this off, or I could hang it off some other way. I'll think about that. But anyway, he cut the edges so that I can actually, I've got it bolted down, but I can actually undo the bolt and open the front cover of the wooden book. These were originally from a piano. My daughter gave it to me. It was, you know, the part of the piano that holds the music. And I loved the design, so I put glow of the dark, a resin I carved into the pattern, and I put glow in the dark resin. You can just see it shining up there and there. And then I had this brooch in my collection of, you know, from my mother's old stock, mother of pearl brooch. So you can't quite see it, but I've got glow in the dark resin around the edges of it, and I kind of carved into it, but it drilled through the shells. There's a bit of a kind of a, I don't know if you can see it. There's kind of a hole, two big holes there, two big cracks, which I may crush some more mother of pearl and get some more, it's a special super glue. It's I can't think of the name, it'll come to me. It's used for inlaying, and I might just fill in those little holes with glue. And I want to also get my graver out, because I did a bit of a bodgy job of it, re-engraving the shell. It was meant to be a butterfly and it lost some of its shape, got sanded off the initial carving. So I want to re-graver it and make it better. And the little antennae I just drew on. But I was thinking, as I was coming home on the bus, I might make that in power shell. I'd have to make it very thinly, so I'm not sure how I'm going to go about that, and cutting it to shape will be quite difficult. But I'm thinking about making the antennae in power shell. Anyway, and the other thing I want to do is this, I don't know what you call those, the round bits with the hole that separate the bolt from pressing into the wood. I don't know, what do you call them? It escapes me. I want to make that out of this piece of copper here. I'll have to saw it into a circular shape, and it might not end up being quite the same width. Oh no, I could do it. It'll just make it, and have that behind the bolt, because and then I might use my dapping step thing, dappers, dippity doo, and cut it into the shape of a flower to match the butterfly theme, you understand, and curve them up a bit so it looks like a flower. Good thinking, Mama T. Ooh, very creative. So that's the plan. I want to upgrade it still. Like, this has been a work in progress, this little box book. So yes, and I bought those. I can probably replicate them, copy them in copper, but they're made in bronze. But I bought them in Bunnings. I think they're fine. I quite like them, so they're fine. I'm happy with those. And I'm going to, yes, go along with what Peter Sloan had suggested, of making the serpent to curve around all these bits and cover up the holes, and it'll look more professional, and it'll be another embellishment, maybe a little bit OTT, over the top, but Mama T doesn't mind being a bit over the top and a bit opulent and glittery and OTT and extraneous and out there. So yes, so I bought the copper in AJS this afternoon when I came from the 333 bus. I thought I can glue it on and saw it out, and I might, to match the flower patterning on there, which you won't really see much of it, I might, you know, give the snake some texture like this piece, which was what I was intending to use, but I didn't have enough of it. So yes, so I'm very happy about buying this piece of copper, because it's been on my mind for about 6 months, and I've been like, oh, I must get round to that, I must get round to that, and there was always something that stopped me from doing it. I got either broke, spent too much money on something else, or forgot about it, or there was some other interference. So anyway, I also made this out of an old button, and also a piece of, you know, costume jewellery. It's brass, little brass piece from my mother's old stock. So, and of course I added the little tassel, but it's gone a bit tarnished, you know, the metal. Excuse me. So I'm thinking about cleaning it up, that and the little brass piece, and then painting it with Protector Clear so that it'll never tarnish again and never need polishing again, and it can just look a bit more schmick. Just for my own perfectionist purposes, it doesn't really matter if it gets tarnished and I have to polish it occasionally, but I just think it'll look nicer when it's shiny, shiny, shiny. Oh, shiny. Speaking of shiny, as I grabbed a bit of early lunch, and as I was walking to the bus stop to catch the 180 bus, a young man reached out with a pamphlet, and I normally fob them off immediately because they're always selling makeup products, and they're a bit annoying, you know, salespeople. And I took one look at him. I knew immediately he was Israeli. A very charming, nice young man. So he put some product on my hand, and he said, see all those lumpy bits? There was all these lumpy, scaly bits that come off. And I said, yes, it's repulsive. Don't ever do that to me again. And he just looked at me. And he said, oh, but it's cleaned all the old skin off. And I went, yes, well, it is old skin, and there's a lot of it, and I prefer to remain in denial about it. So we were bantering back and forth, he and I. He was a lovely young man, and he said, it's just the old skin, and the product he was selling was $250. I was like, darling, my skin is ravaged and ravished because I refuse to buy these products. That's why I look the way I do. I said, I'll be 61 soon, but really, I said, I'm 25. I was just staring him up, and he looked at me in all seriousness, and he says, I believe you are. I said, now, my darling, you are flirting shamelessly. You're old enough to be my grandson. We looked at each other. And then he got all kind of arrogant and said, I'll have you know I'm the manager of the store and I have a clinic, and pulled out a photo of all these older women all having their skin all beautifully done. I just rolled my eyes. I said, that's lovely for you, darling. I said, I believe in only one product and I don't even use that. He said, what's that? I said, my crazy German mother used it till she was 65. She had not one wrinkle. What's that? He said. I said, Nivea cream, which is also, you can plainly see I'm not putting on my face. Why aren't you putting these things on your face, Tanya? I said, because I believe in aging gracefully and just being who you are, not all this nonsense, actually. He was a bit bereft. Then he said, because we come from the same culture and religion, faith, he said, have a lip balm. Wanted to give me a lip balm, which was very sweet. I said, my darling, I don't wear these things. I don't use these things. I've got 10 lip balms at home I never, ever use. They're just lying around. He looked at me. Then he said, okay, and he went to give me a soap. He said, I just want to do something sweet for you. I'm thinking, oh, darling, you're so sweet. I could feast on you for a week. But I said to him, my darling, you don't understand. I said, I have had many Israeli lovers in my lifetime. None of them I shall ever forgive. And then we both threw our head back and laughed and laughed and laughed. He really was a lovely young man. But, you know, the loveliness was getting to me, wanting me to buy $250 worth of product, which I said, look, I will come back to you if the gods bless me salubriously. In the meantime, see you later. Anyway, he was lovely though. Very sweet. Anyway, I'm happy about that bit of copper because you know, it's a lot of work I've set for myself, but I'll feel better when it's done. I'll feel like I've achieved something, and it'll keep me busy and take my mind off the impending toothy problems. So which I'm not looking forward to, but now I know I can, you know, the bus journey wasn't so bad and it wasn't such a long walk, except for, you know, leaving my house to go up to the bus stop here. But I tell you what, both my Achilles heels were aching coming home. I don't know what's wrong with me, but they really hurt. I didn't even walk that freaking much. So I'm getting worried about that. And anyway, in AJS I bought, this wasn't very expensive actually, I was quite pleased. And I bought a wonderful, very expensive, normally it's very expensive, silver cloth for cleaning jewellery with. It's Haggerty's. It was on sale, 50% off. So I was very pleased about that. I don't use it that often, just to give a quick buff of things sometimes. And I bought 2 crucible bowls for when I do some casting, because the crucible bowls get very filled with crud and kind of need replacing every now and then, fairly regularly actually. So I'm happy about that as well. And I almost bought a rawhide hammer, which I had my little heart set on for some obscure reason that made no sense except to me. But when because nothing's priced, so you don't know what the prices are until you actually, unless you ask and until you're about to check out. And that bloody hammer was $130. I went, oh, that'll have to wait. Next time. And they said, we have a cheaper version. They showed me the cheaper version. and I could see the quality wasn't anywhere near as good as the more expensive version, and it was $44, but I decided not to buy it. I've got these nylon hammers that I use when I don't want to damage things, although you can see they're getting a bit banged up. But they'll do the job. But rawhide, why I wanted rawhide was why I wanted the copper was I want to cut out, you know, oval discs or rectangle discs, and get a plumber's torch, and do enameling. But AJS didn't sell the glass enamel paints. They only sell a product called Enamel, but I know where to buy the other paints from. They're also very expensive. For fuck's sake, everything's on the other side of the fucking bread line and poverty line. But anyway, I'll just buy a few basic colours to get me started, and experiment, because I want to do graphite drawings, and then do the enameling on that. So that's the other reason I wanted the copper. I think with this, oh, nearly chopped his head off. I think with the snake, when the snake's done, he just fits, I think, just fits the whole length there. And so I have all this bit left to do the enameling project I want to dream about. I've been obsessing about in recent weeks. So AJS told me that they're considering getting like the Thompson's enamel paints in, and I said I think that's a good idea, because with silver and gold going up, people are diversifying and going into enameling and working with copper, because copper's a lot cheaper than sterling or fine silver and gold. I tell you what, if I had the money though, I'd make that in sterling silver and put that on the box. Be a bit opulent, wouldn't it? It'd make a very nice bracelet in sterling silver too. Very nice cuff. But I've got a couple of bracelets that I've made and with snakes, so enough already. Enough. The divine feminine is working through me and with me and sending me serpentine energy, and we all know what that means, don't we, darlings? Opening up my sexuality and my kundalini. And anyway, I had fun stirring up the young Israeli man. He had fun stirring me up too. It was all good, innocent fun, you know. Then I went to catch the bus. The bus had me very confused, because there were people sitting on the bus but no bus driver, and the doors were locked. So I was pacing back and forward like a wild lioness, trying to figure out how the hell to get in. And in the end I thought, well, I just have to calm my farm, people of Earth. And eventually the driver came and unlocked everything. I don't know what that was about. It was odd. Anyway, that's been my morning, and I'm very tired. I am actually very tired, just from all the nerves and getting het up, worrying about everything, but it's not that bad. 1 hour journey, including walking from my home and walking to the busway, and that's not too shabby. I'll still allow an hour and a half when I go on Thursday next week for the root canal, because just in case buses don't come or they get delayed or something goes horribly feckin' wrong, I might even allow 2 hours. Better to sit around for an hour and be early than arrive too late. Yes, I think I will give that a bit of a texturizing. So The mama tea is happy today, tired but happy. Not quite sure where I'm going to put this. I'll whack it up here, that'll do. It can sit up there. Right, so I'm slowly chipping away at little things I want to get done, and it happens in Tanya time, which is anywhere between. I've been focusing on that, making that snake for about 6 months or longer. So when did Peter do it for me? About a year ago, isn't it? So it's been in the back of my mind for about a year, and I've only just got around to buying the copper sheet and moving forward with that project. I really love this. I really do. It just speaks to my inner child. Even the way Kermie's tail feather wobbles with it. It's got a real wobble. Lovely. Thank you, Kermie, for giving me your tail feather. It was a bit stumpy for a while there, but he's grown them 2 new ones, thank the goddess. I don't know why he pulled it out, but he decided that it was annoying him, and he ripped them both out. It's got handsome little tail feathers growing back. Look at you, pretty boy. Can you see them? Here's my tail feathers. The next ones I'm going to keep when you rip them out. I don't take them unless he gives it to me. Here's one from, where did I put it? I found a feather in the bottom of the cage yesterday from Little Bow. I don't know where I put it. It was just one of his grey ones. But I collect all their little feathers because they come in handy for witchy embellishments on things and other artistic endeavours. Just saying. I reckon I should also do a bit of inlay on this. Inlay something beautiful in it. But I've already got, you know, the claws and the lapis lazuli and my beautiful Bella and my beautiful Zulu. Oh, I miss them. I miss all my pets. They were wonderful friends. Wonderful, wonderful friends. And no one loves you like animals or birds, people of Earth. No human will love you like they do. Sad but true. Right, on that note, we'll carry on reading. I might just, bear with me, I might just quickly pop these back into the living room. Just don't want them to get damaged or me knock into them or something unfortunate happen. Ow, that was my knees singing to me. Right, my darlings, here we go with the next story of my mistress. My mistress's sparrow is dead. 29 minutes and 15 seconds in. Might make a note of that because I forget that I go on my little rambles and have my preliminary discussions on whatever it is I've been doing each day, which takes up some of the introduction to each day's reading, doesn't it? So you put up with a lot, my beautiful likers, subscribers and commenters coming to my channel. You never know what you're gonna get. What's the Mama T gonna come up with each day? wait till I show you the snake when I've finished it off. I reckon it'll be lovely, and I'll be very proud of myself. I'm just trying to decide how I'm going to attach it, whether I solder on little posts to go through the already existing holes, or whether I just glue it on. I have to think about that. I have to think how I'm going to attach it. We'll worry about that when I've done the actual sawing out and getting it ready part. But I no longer have a fear of soldering, people of Earth. I used to shake, I used to sweat, I used to tear at my hair, and now I can do it. It still fails on occasion, but I can actually do it. If it fails, I just go I just go, oh well, back in again, do it again, and I carry on until it's completed. Right, excuse me, I'm a bit thirsty from my big day out. I was only there a very short time having the 3D scan, but Thursday's going to be 3 hours having the root canal done, and then the following, is it Tuesday or Wednesday? The 24th anyway. It'll be 4 hours. Coming home by bus with a swollen face won't be pretty, but it's not so bad. It's not so bad. Calm my farm. I can do this. I've done it before. Last time I came home from a dentist, a private one that I had a voucher for. I won't say which dentist it was, but she fixed 3 teeth in one go, and I was swollen out to here, and because I basically have, you know, PTSD, CPTSD, and a prodigious appetite and Viking ancestry, I went to the Maya Centre, you know, food court, and I had a meal, and I remember I was hardly able to hold the food in my mouth. I was that swollen, and I'm like gingerly shoveling food in, and there was another man just watching me from a few tables away like this, because he could see I was struggling, but I was ravenous. I hadn't eaten. So what I'll try to do on Thursday and Wednesday the following week is I'll try and eat beforehand, so that I'm not coming out in a psychotic feeding berserker frenzy like I go into, kind of an altered state, quite frankly. And it's not good. It's not good, the states I go into. So it'll, you know, I'll just have to manage it and work around it by making sure I bring water with me and have lunch beforehand, or a very big breakfast, and maybe bring something snacky for the bus trip. And I need to buy some rescue remedy for my nerves. I managed it today, but I was very nervous. And when I got to the, it's like something out of Faulty Towers, that x-ray clinic there at the Hurston Hospital. You get there and they go, oh, yeah, I don't know if we can do that today. And I'm just staring at them, because I made the extra trip, you know. I said, well, I've made a special trip. It's taken me an hour to get here. I said, I have an expectation that you will do the job, because I'm here now and you're supposed to be the x-ray clinic. And the woman just sort of looked at me. Okay. So she goes and shuffles in and talks to a technician. I can hear them kind of arguing a little bit in the back room. I'm like, honestly, it's like going to a... I shouldn't say it, but I will. It's like going to a third world back end brothel trying to get bloody treatment. But anyway, the technician that did take me in, thank the goddess, you know, was very kind, very officious, but very kind. And she happened to be Indian, and I said, oh, you know, the goddess has brought me here. And, oh, you believe in the gods? And then she was all happy, you know, because Hindu woman. Do I believe in the gods? The question is, though, do the gods believe in me? I think so. Let's be real here. So anyway, we got that job done. And then when I was in AJS, I said, while I'm here, I want to get ballpark price figures on the rolling mills because I want to buy one. I can't afford it at this stage, but I'm manifesting. So I said it has to be one with gears because I've got arthritis and I can't do the cranking so well on with my wrists, and my hands are quite weak. I said I got into this jewellery malarkey late in life, actually, when my body's bloody breaking down and I don't have a lot of money, and on top of it I'm getting old. And they just looked at me. But it's true, it's like, it's nuts. I said all this with the silver going up and the gold going up and wars in the Middle East and food prices will soar, and I'm trying to make jewellery like a freaking clown. Well, anyway, I said to them, I haven't been in for a while, and they sort of looked at me because I used to go there regularly, you know. And I said I got despondent because none of my jewellery sold, so I decided I'll only make it for gifts or things for my own purposes. And then the young lass that was serving me, she said, oh, that's understandable. She said business is very quiet too, you know, not many people are buying much. I said, well, everyone's hunkering down because war and all that threat. I said, don't worry, I said, I'm the only one that pops up in a crisis and decides to start making things again. And I said, do you know why I do that? And they went, why? And I went, because I simply won't give in. And then they nodded and smiled, you know. I do wish I had more money. There's quite a few things I want to buy, actually. I've just realised I bought the drill bits, but I didn't bring them out of the bag. She did put them in the bag, didn't she? One moment, I've got to make sure, because, you know, they're not cheap and I don't want to lose them. Yes, Baruch Hashem, blessed be God, they were still in the bag that I'd already packed away to recycle. So I nearly lost them. So they were on special, which was good, very good. Because when you're a jeweller or you make jewellery or you're a silversmith, you go through a lot of jewel bits. And I can buy cheaper ones, you know, and super cheap, or, you know, those kind of auto car shops. But I like to have the proper ones because they're made a special way, and Bush is the best. They're very la creme de la creme. So and I noticed some of my drill bits I was running out because they've broken or running low. There's so much more I need to buy, but I won't panic about it. I just bought the bare minimum, and I didn't buy the rawhide hammer at $130. That can bloody wait. It's not the end of the world. Although it is the end of the world, but you know, I can't justify spending that on a hammer right now. It's like that song, isn't it? If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this town. La 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 la. Something like that, isn't it? I have got the melodies sort of right. Alright, don't shoot me, I know, it's sad, but I try. The song is If I Had a Hammer, and I'll add it to the bottom of this video when I upload it, because just so you can see that I wasn't far off and that I did try. I want to cry. It's not fair that I can't sing. It's not fair that I can't have all the things I want. Ooh. But we won't cry, we'll just make a snack for my grimoire wooden case, and make some cutouts for the enameling, and we'll just choose to be happy, people of Earth. It's a choice. Attitude truly is everything. Right, and on that note, The Lady with the Little Dog by Anton Chekhov. I miss my dog. You won't think about that. It'll set me off again. Chapter 1 of The Lady with the Little Dog. By the goddess, this might be possibly, no it won't, we can do it. It's going to be a long video though. So get used to looking at this face whining about the apocalypse with her CPAP damaged schnozzy and her old lady-itis. Someone out there still loves me. Don't know who, but gotta keep dreaming, people of Earth. I said to the ladies in AJS, I said, I'll be back next week to buy that rolling mill. And they looked at me and I just went, I said, you never know, miracles could happen, you know. $2,600. Take a bit more than a bloody miracle. But anywho, it's not like that I make that much jewellery anyway, but as they said, it'll last you the rest of your life. I said, how long have I got? 10, 20 years? If my hands hold up, I guess it will last me the rest of my life. All my daughters will inherit very expensive silversmithing equipment they won't know what to do with, so they'll throw it in the bin like I did with some of my mother's things. I didn't know what it was for. Oh my God, when I found out one of the things I threw out was worth about $500, I nearly died. Anyway. Take a breath, Tanya Aarons. Here we go. The talk was that a new face had appeared on the embankment. A lady with a little dog. Dmitry Dmitrich Gurov, who had already spent 2 weeks in Yalta and was used to it, also began to take an interest in new faces. Sitting in a pavilion at Vernaz, he saw a young woman, not very tall, blonde, in a beret, walking along the embankment. Behind her ran a white Spitz. Spitz, you know, fluffy dog of some description. Just bear with me, my feet are boiling hot. I'm going to take my socks and shoes off, my sand shoes off. I actually hate wearing shoes now because I'm always barefoot at home. I find it clammy and confining and bloody uncomfortable. Oh, icky poo bum ooh. I especially hate wearing sneakers or trainers or sand shoes or whatever you call them, but I thought they'll be a bit kinder on my feet since I might have a lot of walking to do today. Right, moderately kinder. Still got the beginnings of a blister there. Can't win. Hobbits with big feet and big attitude. Can't win, people of Earth. But when we win, it's spectacular. Right, Spitz. And after that he met her several times a day in the town garden or in the square. She went strolling alone in the same beret with the white spits. Nobody knew who she was, and they called her simply the lady with the little dog. If she's here with no husband or friends, Gurov reflected, it wouldn't be a bad idea to make her acquaintance. He was not yet 40, but he had a 12-year-old daughter and 2 sons in school. He had married young while still a second-year student, and now his wife seemed half again his age. She was a tall woman with dark eyebrows, erect, imposing, dignified, and a thinking person, as she called herself. She read a great deal, used the new orthography, called her husband not Dmitri but Dimitri. I can't quite quantify the difference. Dimitri. More emphasis on the... Oh, never mind, people of Earth. Bear with me, I am tired. I honestly don't know how I'm doing this live. I honestly don't, but I keep doing it, so on we go. Called her husband not Dmitri but Dimitri, but he secretly considered her none too bright, narrow-minded, graceless, was afraid of her, and disliked being at home. That marriage is over, people of Earth. Over. Right. He had begun to be unfaithful to her long ago. Bing, bam, boom, babies, long over. Was unfaithful often, and, probably for that reason, almost always spoke ill of women, and when they were discussed in his presence, he would say of them, an inferior race. It seemed to him that he had been taught enough by bitter experience to call them anything he liked, and yet he could not have lived without the inferior race, even for 2 days. Which is true of most misogynist piss-weak men. The universe really does have a wonderful way of getting revenge on assholes, doesn't it? There's always that little secret twist, that little snipe, that little tetchy little twitch that puts the fly in all the ointment. Babies. But anyway, let's carry on. In the company of men, he was bored, ill at ease. With them he was taciturn and cold. But when he was among women, he knew himself free and knew what to talk about with them and how to behave. And he was at ease, even being silent with them. In his appearance, in his character, in his whole nature, there was something attractive and elusive that disposed women towards him and enticed them. He knew that, and he himself was attracted to them by some force. Just gonna dash out and get a cold glass of water. Be right back. My feet made me very hot and sticky. Hot and sticky, birdie boys. Where's my kiss? Do I get a kiss? Oh, he's gone all morning and you won't give me a kiss, you cheap little pigeons. Well, what about you, Bubba? Do I get a kissy? well, at least he's smiling at me. I get a smile from the photo. Mum's just going to glow in the dark tonight with all that radiation from the 3D imaging. I said to the technician, I said, the gods will be able to find me tonight. I'll be glowing in the dark in my bed. She just said, you got a great sense of humour, Tanya. I'm not actually joking. Well, they can find me anywhere. They don't need me to be radiated to find me. When the Lord has his finger upon you, he has his finger upon you. Right. Semi-flirtatious young salesman selling their wares. $250 for a pot of organic face cream. I don't think so. There's just no point me buying that sort of stuff. I've got about 4 tubes of moisturiser that I bought. I've got another 4 that people gave to me because they weren't using theirs either. And it's like, how much can one woman even use? A lot of it's all gone off anyway because I just don't use it. So I've made my mind up. I'd rather buy things for silversmithing than skincare regimens because they just rot and don't get used, whereas tools never go rotten. You might get a bit rusty at times, I might have to freshen them up a bit, but tools are forever. I hate wasting money on things that are perishable and, you know, are just selling the illusion of eternal youth when we all get old sometime. Didn't expect it to happen so quickly, but you know, such discomforting circumstances, ways of getting old that could be quite delightful if you have a house on the Riviera, for example. But look, you know, it's shit happens. Like $250 for a pot of face cream. Oh, dear goddess. Right, anyway. In his appearance, in his character, in his whole nature, there was something attractive. I read that. And elusive. Right, we read that. We're being attractive and we're being elusive, people there. And it hurts up here, which is not even the tooth that's going to be operated on. Dear goddess. I'm just scattering my toothy pain all over my face. Right, where were we? Repeated experience and bitter experience indeed had long since taught him that every intimacy which in the beginning lends life such pleasant diversity and presents itself as a nice and light adventure, inevitably with decent people, especially irresolute Muscovites who are slow starters, grows into a major task, extremely complicated, and the situation finally becomes burdensome. Very serious people, Russians, but passionate people. I was always a little afraid of Russian men though, or Polish men particularly. I thought they just might be a little bit too domineering and too passionate. So I settled for those bastard Israelis instead, and well, same. Anyway, you have to laugh. But at every new meeting with an interesting woman, this experience somehow slipped from his memory, and he wanted to live, and everything seemed quite simple and amusing. I wonder what nationality my next lover will be. It's only been, what year is it now? 2026. It's only been 11 years. I don't think I'll take another lover ever again. By lover I mean sexual partner, you understand. You can have lovers that are non-sexual and quite lovely, but I'm talking about, that kind of relationship. Don't think I can be bothered now, quite frankly. I was saying in the AJS, I said, these prices I need a sugar daddy, but who's going to take on an old bag like me? I mean, you've got to be realistic. I said, I need to be a financially independent and successful woman in my own right. And even the two shop women, they both looked at me and nodded and sighed and commiserated with me. It's too late for me now, my darlings. Far too late. But anyway, at least I can have a bit of a laugh about it and muse about it and ponder about it. But I'm manifesting that rolling mill. I am. I'm going to have that rolling mill. It take me 2 to 5 years to save up the money, but I'll get it. Will we still be alive in 2 to 5 years' time with AI and the mad wars going on in the world? Right. But at every new meeting with an interesting woman, this experience somehow slipped from his memory, and he wanted to live. And everything seemed quite simple and amusing. Right, we already read that last paragraph. Maybe I should give up on reading today since I'm all over the show. And so one time towards evening, he was having dinner in the garden, and the lady in the beret came over unhurriedly to take the table next to his. Her expression, her walk, her dress, her hair told him that she belonged to decent society, was married in Yalta for the first time and alone, and that she was bored here. In the stories about the impurity of local morals, there was much untruth. He despised them and knew that these stories were mostly invented by people who would eagerly have sinned themselves had they known how. But when the lady sat down at the next table, 3 steps away from him, he remembered those stories of easy conquests. Someone going to the park. Of trips to the mountains, and the tempting thought of a quick fleeting liaison, a romance with an unknown woman, of whose very name you are ignorant, suddenly took possession of him. He gently called the Spitz, and when the dog came over, he shook his finger at it. The Spitz growled. Gurov shook his finger again. The lady glanced at him and immediately lowered her eyes. "He doesn't bite," she said, and blushed. It's a bit odd, isn't it? It's a big four-wheel drive coming up here and going again. I thought it was someone going to the dog park, but they're obviously, I don't know, looking around the neighbourhood. Yes, Kermie? May I give him a bone? And when she nodded in the affirmative, he said affably, have you been in Yalta long? About 5 days. But I'm already dragging through my second week here. They were silent for a while. The time passes quickly, and yet it's so boring here, she said, without looking at him. It's merely the accepted thing to say, it's boring here. The ordinary man lives somewhere in his Belevo or Gijdra and isn't bored. Then he comes here. Oh, how boring. Oh, how dusty. You'd think he came from Granada. She laughed. Then they went on eating in silence, like strangers. But after dinner, they walked off together. Are you a happy boy now that Mama's home? You're not angry with me for being out? Wait till Thursday comes around, you'll be really angry because I'll be gone most of the day. Well, not really. An hour there, 3 hours on the chair, an hour back, 5 hours. Half a day, boys. Half a day. Sorry. Then they went on eating in silence like strangers, but after dinner they walked off together, and a light bantering conversation began of free, contented people who do not care where they go or what they talk about. They strolled and talked of how strange the light was on the sea. The water was of a lilac colour, so soft and warm, and over it the moon cast a golden strip. They talked of how sultry it was after the hot day. Gurov told her he was a Muscovite, a philologist by education, but worked in a bank, had once been preparing to sing in an opera singer, but had dropped it, owned 2 houses in Moscow. And from her he learned that she grew up in Petersburg and was married in S, which they don't say what S stands for, where she had now been living for 2 years, that she would be staying in Yalta for about a month, and that her husband might come to fetch her because he also wanted to get some rest. She was quite unable to explain where her husband served, in the provincial administration or the Zemstvo Council. Zemstvo? And she herself found that funny. And Gurov also learned that her name was Anna Sergeevna. Afterwards, in his hotel room, he thought about her, that tomorrow she would probably meet him again. It had to be so. Going to bed, he recalled that, still quite recently, she had been a schoolgirl, had studied just as his daughter was studying now, recalled how much timorousness and angularity there was in her laughter, her conversation with a stranger. It must have been the first time in her life that she was alone in such a situation, when she was followed, looked at and spoken to with only one secret purpose that she could not fail to guess. Which she could not fail to guess. He recalled her slender, weak neck, her beautiful grey eyes. There's something pathetic in her all the same, he thought, and began to fall asleep. Chapter 2. A week had passed since they became acquainted. It was Sunday. Inside it was stuffy, but outside the dust flew in whirls. Hats blew off. They felt thirsty all day, and Gurov often stopped at the pavilion, offering Anna Sergeyevna now a soft drink, now ice cream. There was no escape. I'm laughing because I'm thinking about that young man that was selling the skin products. I said, "Young man, why are you taking time to flirt with this old lady? I'm old enough to be your grandmother. Are you going to disappoint the beautiful young girls and deny yourself your own progeny, messing about with old ladies?" He just looked at me and burst out laughing. It's true though, isn't it? There's something wrong with our young people. They're all so, "I don't want to ever have children. What kind of a life is it to have children? It was a waste of our time. It was a waste of my time when I had children 40 years ago too, but it's a biological imperative. It's expected of us, the perpetuation of our species, you understand. Now they're all nihilistic and part fucking cyborg and don't even want to breed and frotter about with old ladies. It's tragic, is what it really is, people of Earth. I mean, I laid on the charm and he laid on the charm and it's a very sweet encounter, but it's not the world that I hoped for when I got old, you know. I hope to have my own grandchildren, actually. Now I put Yiddische Mama Gilta Spilkers on young lads and remind them of their place in the universe. Make love to someone close to you in age of your own generation. Be a family and have your babies. And one day when you get old, if you're so blessed by the gods, why, you too will have your grandchildren. It was a lovely family on the bus travelling to the city and going back. They caught the same 180 bus as me, so they were on the same bus route. And it was a youngish mother with her little toddler boy, probably about 3, and it's sitting in his push chair, and then with an older man, and they looked to me like they were Greek, Greek descent, but obviously born here. The father was very dignified and sweet, and his daughter was on the trip was burbling away with him, happily talking, engaging with her little boy as well. And I was watching all of this, thinking how lovely and how delightful. And then they caught the same bus going back, and so this time the mother and grandfather didn't sit together, but they were still, you know, talking, but mainly engaging, talking to the little one. The little boy had big brown eyes and reminded me of my friend Themos, who looked like a miniature Omar Sharif. When Themos was a child, he was an extremely beautiful child. Big watery eyes. Anyway, this little boy was, you know, attractive too and bright. His mummy was talking to him, and I just observed, sitting behind them thinking, well, at least I can take delight in other people's babies, and for the brief moment that we're sharing space on the bus ride, it's a bit fucking surreal, quite frankly. But anyway, it was nice to see a family enjoying each other's company and having an outing together, genuinely loving each other and enjoying each other, not like how I used to get treated, as if I was some kind of charity case or something to be dragged around and condescended to, like I was some kind of bloody appendage or nuisance. It's beyond foul how I've been treated. The more I think about it, the more foul it becomes. So I try not to think about it, because there's a tree and string of rope with my name on it if I carry on like that for much longer, by the gods. But you know, it's hard to think about all that was stolen from me by people who were brainwashed and indoctrinated by their education system and their government to self-immolate, poison themselves out of their skulls, and then not be able to have children or not have any desire for children. And children are a lot of hard work. I won't say it's easy being a parent. It's certainly not. It's not always all that much bloody fun, especially when you have all your wealth torn from you by people who are spiteful and verminous, and you struggle alone with your kids. But it's still part of the whole reason, the whole point of life is to grow together and raise your children and look forward to your grandchildren and grow with them too, and always forward movement, always growth potentiates, always new life and new joy and new love, and taking delight in all of it. But then maybe I'm idealistic. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong after all, and maybe it's all been a delusion. Je ne sais quoi. Where's my water? I'll top up my water. Friday, Shabbat Shalom, Friday. Well, the Holy One inspired me to get that copper so I can make that snake for my wooden book. So there is that. We're on the program. We're moving forward with creativity in ways that do not involve bringing progeny into the world, because I'm physically incapable of that now. I've been since 2007, and very much little else to look forward to except my little creative projects, I guess. So there is what it there is what it is. I'm also thinking about doing some little small paintings, but I haven't decided who or what I want to paint yet. I quite enjoy painting. I'm not all that good at it, but I quite enjoy I did some lovely paintings of Beauregard few years before he died, actually. A couple of years before he died. And Jared, who's an excellent artist, he's actually a very talented person. When he saw it, he said, "Didn't know you had it in you, Tanya. That's actually a really good portrait of Beauregard." I painted it on the little black wooden shelves I had. I said, "See, there's things about me you didn't know." I just smiled. They really did think I was some kind of idiot because I ended up strangled and impoverished and beaten down by life and never was gifted real love and safety and prosperity and success. They really think I'm some kind of loser, you know. Every now and then I was like that when I painted that. I'd take them by surprise and show them who I really am. But it's wasted on them anyway. Familiarity bred too much contempt. So there is that. Right. Where were we? Chapter 2. Had I already started reading chapter 2? It appears not. Oh yes, I might read that again. The first paragraph again. I'm not sure where I got lost in space. So here's that spirit that was communicating with me the other night is right. I do need clematis flower to stay grounded in this body, to stay focused in this body. A week had passed since they became acquainted. It was Sunday. Inside it was stuffy, but outside the dust flew and whirls, hats blew off. They felt thirsty all day, and Gurov often stopped at the pavilion, offering Anna Sergeyevna now a soft drink, now ice cream. There was no escape. In the evening, when it relented a little, they went to the jetty to watch the steamer come in. There were many strollers on the pier. They had come to meet people. They were holding bouquets. And here two particularities of the smartly dressed Yalta crowd distinctly struck one's eye. The elderly ladies were dressed like young ones, and there were many generals. Owing to the roughness of the sea, the steamer arrived late, when the sun had already gone down, and it was a long time turning before it tied up. Anna Sergeyevna looked at the ship and the passengers through her lorgnette, as if searching for acquaintances, and when she turned to Gurov, her eyes shone. She talked a lot, and her questions were abrupt, and she herself immediately forgot what she had asked. Then she lost her lorgnette in the crowd. Young one said to me, "What is your name?" I said to him, "Why is it important to you that you should know my name?" And in typical Jewish Israeli style, he answered a question with a question. It's a very Jewish thing, by the way, to do that. He said, "What is wrong with asking the name of such a charming lady?" And so then I looked at him and I said, "Are we going to do this dance all day? Are we going to do the Jewish thing and keep asking questions with a question?" And then he looked at me and laughed and he said, "Got me." Oh, he was fun, that lad. He really was good fun. I've never been to Israel, but I reckon I'd do very well when they're not having a God-forsaken war. I'd do very well there, I think. Very well indeed. Because I'd have to avoid the war of the sexes and very charming Middle Eastern style seductors, but you know, it's probably good that I stayed in Australia. Oh dear goddess. My friend Dr. Gordon Senator forbade me making Aliyah about 20 years ago. I said, but Gordon, I said, I'm wasted in this country, CUNTRY. I said, I've been cheated abominably. He said, do you think you'd be better off in Israel, where there's a whole country full of them? I looked at him and went, oh dear goddess, I think you're right. So I stayed here, only to be brutalised by Jew and Gentile alike, to the point where I hold you all in contempt, men of earth. Every now and then you find a jewel amongst the muck. Young one was a bit of a jewel, but he was far too young for me. 40 years too young for me. Dear goddess. Right. And it's not serious, you know, romantic flirting. It's just showmanship and making a sale. Let's be real here. It's the oldest trope of all, predator and prey. Watching a magpie underneath the guava tree, searching for worms. It's been coming off quite often, that little bird. Hello, Maggie. Are you looking for your prey too? Yes, Mama T. There's a worm in the garden with my name on it. Eventually we all end up as bloody worms, don't we? Let's be real here. I should stop with my ageist paranoia and just stoop some lovely young man who's offering, but there was a brief time in my sexual history when I did entertain that behaviour. Old man, young man, rich man, poor man, exotic or local man, made no difference. Once you've had a sampling of every part of the spectrum of manhood, you realise, not really worth the bother, is it? Sad but true. Right. He's a very busy bird, that bird. He's found something. He's digging in the grass. Yes, he had a little nibble. He found something. Good birdie. Good birdies. Yes. There's a birdie out there, Kermie. Do you want to go in the garden? You do? What's the time? I don't know what the time is. It's a bit late to go in the garden. How about we go tomorrow? I'll make it up to you tomorrow, boys. We'll sit in the garden tomorrow. I think it's going to rain soon too. Right, where were we? She lost her lorgnette in the crowd. The smartly dressed crowd was dispersing. The faces could no longer be seen. The wind had died down completely, and Gurov and Anna Sergeyevna stood as if they were expecting someone else to get off the steamer. Anna Sergeyevna was silent now and smelled the flowers, not looking at Gurov. There's a magpie across the road on the opposite side. Cute. The weather's improved towards evening, he said. Or where shall we go now? Shall we take a drive somewhere? She made no answer. Then he looked at her intently and suddenly embraced her and kissed her on the lips. And he was showered with the fragrance and moisture of the flowers. And at one, looking around timorously, and at once looked around timorously. Had anyone seen them? Let's go to your place, he said softly. And they both walked quickly. Her hotel room was stuffy and smelled of the perfume she had bought in a Japanese shop. Gurov, looking at her now, thought, what meetings there are in life. From the past he had kept the memory of carefree, good-natured women, cheerful with love, grateful to him for their happiness, however brief. And of women, his wife, for example, who loved without sincerity, with superfluous talk, affectedly, with hysteria, with an expression as if it were not love, not passion, but something more significant. And of those 2 or 3 very beautiful, cold ones, in whose faces a predatory expression would suddenly flash, a stubborn wish to take, to snatch from life. More than it could give. And these were women, not in their first youth, capricious, unreasonable, domineering, unintelligent. And when Gurov cooled towards them, their beauty aroused hatred in him, and the lace of their underwear seemed to him like scales. There's nothing more shackling and confining and superficial and plastic, spastic, fantastic than a false lover, people of earth. Ask me how I know. But here was all the timorousness and angularity of inexperienced youth, a feeling of awkwardness and an impression of bewilderment, as if someone had suddenly knocked at the door. Anna Sergeyevna, the lady with the little dog, somehow took a special, very serious attitude towards what had happened, as if it were her fall, so it seemed, and that was strange and inopportune. Her features drooped and faded, and her long hair hung down sadly on both sides of her face. She sat pondering in a dejected pose, like the sinful woman in an old painting. "It's not good," she said. "You'll be the first not to respect me now." There was a watermelon on the table in the hotel room. Gurov cut himself a slice and unhurriedly began to eat it. At least half an hour passed in silence. Anna Sergeyevna was touching. She had about her a breath of the purity of a proper, naive, little experienced woman. The solitary candle burning on the table barely lit up her face, but it was clear that her heart was uneasy. "Why should I stop respecting you?" asked Gurov. "You don't know what you're saying yourself." "God forgive me," she said, and her eyes filled with tears. "This is terrible. It's like you're justifying yourself." "How can I justify myself? I'm a bad, low woman. I despise myself, and I'm not even thinking of any justification. It's not my husband I've deceived, but my own self. And not only now, I've been deceiving myself for a long time." "My husband may be an honest and good man, but he's a lackey. I don't know what he does there, how he serves. I only know that he's a lackey. I married him when I was 20. I was tormented by curiosity. I wanted something better. I told myself there must be a different life. I wanted to live and live. I was burning with curiosity. You won't understand it, but I swear to God, I couldn't control myself any longer. Something was happening to me. I couldn't restrain myself. I told my husband I was ill and came here. And here I go about as if in a daze, as if I'm out of my mind. And now I've become a trite, trashy woman almost anyone can despise." Gurov was bored listening. He was annoyed by the naive tone, by this repentance, so unexpected and out of place. Had it not been for the tears in her eyes, one might have thought she was joking or playing a role. "I don't understand," he said softly. "What is it you want?" She hid her face on his chest and pressed herself to him. Believe me, I beg you," she said. "I love an honest, pure life. Sin is vile to me. I myself don't know what I'm doing. Simple people say, the unclean one beguiled me. And now I can say of myself that the unclean one has beguiled me." Enough, he muttered. He looked into her fixed, frightened eyes, kissed her, spoke softly and tenderly, and she gradually calmed down, and her gaiety returned. They both began to laugh. Later, when they went out, there was not a soul on the embankment. The town with its cypresses looked completely dead, but the sea still bet noisily against the shore. One barge was rocking on the waves, and the lantern on it glimmered sleepily. They found a cab and drove to Oreanda. "I just learned your last name downstairs in the lobby. It was written on the board." "Von Dieteritz?" said Gurov. "Is your husband German?" "No. His grandfather was German, I think, but he himself is Orthodox." In Oreanda, they sat on a bench not far from the church, looked down on the sea, and was silent. Yalta was barely visible through the morning mist. White clouds stood motionless on the mountain tops. The leaves of the trees did not stir. Cicadas called, and the monotonous, dull noise of the sea coming from below spoke of the peace, of the eternal sleep that awaits us. So it had sounded below when neither Yalta nor Oreanda were there. So it sounded now, and would go on sounding with the same dull indifference when we are no longer here. And in this constancy, in this utter indifference to the life and death of each of us, there perhaps lies hidden the pledge of our eternal salvation, the unceasing movement of life on earth, of unceasing perfection. Sitting beside the young woman who looked so beautiful in the dawn, appeased and enchanted by the view of this magical decor, sea, mountains, clouds, the open sky, Gurov reflected that essentially, if you thought of it, everything was beautiful in this world. Everything except for what we ourselves think and do when we forget the higher goals of being and our human dignity. Some man came up. It must have been a watchman, looked at them and went away. And this detail seemed such a mysterious thing, and also beautiful. The steamer from Feodosia could be seen approaching in the glow of the early dawn, its lights out. "There's dew on the grass," said Anna Sergeyevna after a silence. "Yes, it's time to go home." They went back to town. After that, they met on the embankment every noon, had lunch together, dined, strolled, admired the sea. She complained that she slept poorly and that her heart beat anxiously, kept asking the same questions, troubled now by jealousy, now by fear, that he did not respect her enough. You got to know when to leave when respect is no longer served at the table, Anna Sergeyevna. But that you learn sometimes, late in life. Dear Goddess, wasting time on feckin' idiots. Life's too short to waste time on idiots, people of Earth. All those delicious orgasmic breaths you'll never get back. And often on the square or in the garden, and there was no one near them, he would suddenly draw her to him and kiss her passionately. Their complete idleness, those kisses in broad daylight, with a furtive look around and the fear that someone might see them, the heat, the smell of the sea, and the constant flashing before their eyes of idle, smartly dressed or well-fed people, seemed to transform him. He repeatedly told Anna Sergeyevna how beautiful she was and how seductive, was impatiently passionate, never left her side, while she often brooded and kept asking him to admit that he did not respect her, did not love her at all, and saw in her only a trite woman. Late almost every evening they went somewhere out of town, to Oreanda or the Cascade. These outings were successful. Their impressions each time were beautiful, majestic. And they were expecting her husband to arrive. But a letter came from him in which he said that his eyes hurt and begged his wife to come home quickly. Anna Sergeyevna began to hurry. "It's good that I'm leaving," she said to Gurov. "It's fate itself." She went by carriage and he accompanied her. They drove for a whole day. When she'd taken her seat in the express train and the second bell had rung, she said, "Let me have one more look at you, one more look. There." She did not cry, but was sad, as if ill, and her face trembled. "I'll think of you, remember you," she said. "God be with you. Don't think ill over me. We're saying goodbye forever. It must be so, because we should never have met. Well, God be with you." The train left quickly. Its lights soon disappeared, and a moment later the noise could no longer be heard, as if everything were conspiring on purpose to put a speedy end to the sweet oblivion, this madness. And left alone on the platform and gazing into the dark distance, Gurov listened to the chirring of the grasshoppers and the hum of the telegraph wires, with a feeling as if he had just woken up. And he thought that now there was one more affair or adventure in his life, and it too was now over, and all that was left was the memory. He was touched, saddened, and felt some slight remorse. This young woman, whom he was never to see again, had not been happy with him. He had been affectionate with her and sincere, But all the time in his treatment of her, in his tone and caresses, there had been a slight shade of mockery, the somewhat coarse arrogance of a happy man who was, moreover, almost twice her age. She had all the while called him kind, extraordinary, lofty. Obviously he had appeared to her not as he was in reality, and therefore he had involuntarily deceived her. Here at the station there was already a breath of autumn. The wind was cool. It's time I headed north too, thought Gurov, leaving the platform. High time. Let's see how many pages we have left. Right. Chapter 3. At home in Moscow, everything was already wintry. The stoves were heated, and in the morning, when the children were getting ready for school and drinking their tea, it was dark and the nanny would light a lamp for a short time. The frosts had already set in. When the first snow falls, on the first day of riding in sleighs, it is pleasant to see the white ground, the white roofs. One's breath feels soft and pleasant, and in those moments one remembers one's youth. The old lindens and birches, white with hoarfrost, have a good-natured look. They are nearer one's heart than cypresses and palms, and near them no one wants to think of mountains and the sea. Gurov was a Muscovite. He returned to Moscow on a fine frosty day, and when he put on his fur coat and warm gloves and strolled down Petrovka, and when on Saturday evening he heard the bells ringing, his recent trip and the places he had visited lost all their charm for him. He gradually became immersed in Moscow life, and now greedily read 3 newspapers a day, and said that he never read the Moscow newspapers on principle. He was drawn to restaurants, clubs, to dinner parties, celebrations, and felt flattered that he had famous lawyers and actors among his clients, and that, at the doctor's club, he played cards with a professor. He could eat a whole portion of selyanka from the pan. A month would pass, and Anna Sergeyevna, as it seemed to him, would be covered by mist in his memory, and would only appear to him in dreams with a touching smile, as other women did. But more than a month passed, deep winter came, and yet everything was as clear in his memory as if he had parted with Anna Sergeyevna only the day before. And the memories burned brighter and brighter. Whether from the voices of his children doing their homework, which reached him in his study in the evening quiet, or from hearing a romance, or an organ in a restaurant, or the blizzard howling in the chimney. Everything would suddenly rise up in his memory, what had happened on the jetty, and the early morning with mist on the mountains, and the steamer from Feodosia, and the kisses. He would pace the room for a long time and remember and smile. And then his memories would turn to reveries, and in his imagination the past would mingle with what was still to be. Anna Sergeyevna was not a dream. She followed him everywhere like a shadow and watched him. Closing his eyes, he saw her as if alive. And she seemed younger, more beautiful, more tender than she was. And he also seemed better to himself than he had been then in Yalta. In the evenings she gazed at him from the bookcase, the fireplace, the corner. He could hear her breathing, the gentle rustle of her skirts. In the street he followed women with his eyes, looking for one who resembled her. And he was now tormented, now by a strong desire to tell someone his memories. But at home it was impossible to talk of his love, and away from home there was no one to talk with, certainly not among his tenants, nor at the bank. And what was there to say? Had he been in love then? Was there anything beautiful, poetic, or instructive, or merely interesting in his relations with Anna Sergeyevna? And he found himself speaking vaguely of love, of women. And no one could guess what it was about, and only his wife raised her dark eyebrows and said, "You know, Dmitri, the role of fop, it doesn't suit you at all." A wife always knows people there. Always. One night, as he was leaving the doctor's club together with his partner and official, he could not help himself and said, "If you only knew what a charming woman I met in Yalta." The official got into a sleigh and drove off, but suddenly turned around and called out, "Dmitri Dmitrich, what? You were right earlier. The sturgeon was a bit off." Those words, so very ordinary for some reason, suddenly made Gurov indignant, struck him as humiliating, impure. Such savage manners, such faces. These senseless nights and such uninteresting, unremarkable days, frenzied card playing, gluttony, drunkenness, constant talk about the same thing, useless matters and conversations about the same thing took for their share the best part of one's time, the best of one's powers. And what was left in the end was some sort of a curtailed, a wingless life, some sort of nonsense. And it was impossible to get away or flee, as if you were sitting in a madhouse or a prison camp. Gurov did not sleep all night and felt indignant, and as a result had a headache all the next day. And the following nights he slept poorly, sitting up in bed all the time and thinking or pacing up and down. He was sick of the children, sick of the bank, did not want to go anywhere or talk about anything. In December, during the holidays, he got ready to travel and told his wife he was leaving for Petersburg to solicit for a certain young man, and went to S. Why? He did not know very well himself. He wanted to see Anna Sergeyevna and talk with her, to arrange a meeting if he could. He arrived at S in the morning and took the best room in the hotel, where the whole floor was covered with grey army flannel, and there was an inkstand on the table, grey with dust, with a horseback rider who held his hat in his raised hand, but whose head was broken off. The hall porter gave him the necessary information. Von Dideritz lives in his own house on Gonchanaya Street. Gonchanaya Street. Have to channel my ancient Slavic ancestors. I don't think I got that right. Goncharnaya. Staro Gonchanayas. I give it up, people there. I've tried 3 times. After 3 attempts, one should always just give it up. How many Russians want to kill me now? Don't know. Not far from the hotel. He has a good life, is wealthy, keeps his own horses. Impressive. Everybody in town knows him. Equally impressive. The porter pronounced it Derideritz. Okay. Well, don't look at me like that. My Polish ancestry goes back, it was my great-grandmother that was born in Poland. So what's that? 4 generations. I only look Polish. Doesn't mean I am Polish. By the goddess. Far out. What a way to get the gene pool all jumbled up and mumbled up. Vomited back to earth 16 times. So you can butcher other people's languages on my YouTube channel while bemoaning the fact that I never found true love and all the other ignominies. What a life. It's insane. I need to cut this out. I need to do something with my life, people. I need to succeed, even if it only means cutting out bits of copper. Right. Gurov walked unhurriedly to Starogoncharnaya Street, found the house. Well, I'm a professional storyteller, am I not? Perhaps. A tiny little bit. Just opposite the house stretched a fence, long grey with spikes. could flee from such a house, thought Gurov, looking now at the windows and now at the fence. I concur about that, actually. He reflected. Today was not a work day and the husband was probably at home. And anyhow, it would be tactless to go in and cause embarrassment. If he sent a message, it might fall into the husband's hands, and that would ruin everything. It would be best to trust to chance. And he kept pacing up and down the street and near the fence and waited for his chance. He saw a beggar go in the gates and saw the dogs attack him. Then, an hour later, he heard someone playing a piano, and the sounds reached him faintly, indistinctly. It must have been Anna Sergeyevna playing. The front door suddenly opened and some old woman came out. I've just been thinking as I'm reading to you, I might make a better snake. He's a bit boring. He needs some more twists and turns and writhing action. Can I fit it on the edge of that book? That might be the problem why I made it so straight up and down. I need some flow and movement and curves and maelstromic whirlpool, energetic vortices of delight but not spite or smite people of earth. Helps to be a little bit bonkers, doesn't it? When you're an artist, you've got to ride some kind of wave. Sorry. Then an hour later he heard someone playing a piano. The sounds reached him faintly, indistinctly. It must have been Anna Sergeyevna playing. The front door suddenly opened and some old woman came out, the familiar white Spitz running after her. Gurov wanted to call the dog, but his heart suddenly throbbed, and in his excitement he was unable to remember the Spitz's name. He paced up and down and hated the grey fence more and more. Now he thought with vexation that Anna Sergeyevna had forgotten him and was perhaps amusing herself with another man, and that was so natural in the situation of a young woman who had to look at this cursed fence from morning till evening. He went back to his hotel room and sat on the sofa for a long time, not knowing what to do. Then had dinner. Then took a long nap. How stupid and upsetting this all is, he thought, when he woke up and looked at the dark windows. It was already evening. So I've had my sleep. Now what am I going to do for the night? He sat on the bed, which was covered with a cheap grey hospital-like blanket, and taunted himself in vexation. Here's the lady with the little dog for you. Here's an adventure. Yes, here you sit. That morning at the train station, a poster with very big lettering had caught his eye. It was the opening night of The Geisha. He remembered it and went to the theatre. It's very likely that she goes to opening nights, he thought. Didn't have a lot else going on in those days. There was no television and not much in the way of movies. Dear goddess. Right. The theatre was full, and here too, as in all provincial theatres generally, a haze hung over the chandeliers. The gallery stirred noisily. The local dandies stood in the front row before the performance started, their hands behind their backs. And here too, in the governor's box, the governor's daughter sat in front, wearing a boa, while the governor himself modestly hid behind the portiere, and only his hands could be seen. The curtain swayed. The orchestra spent a long time tuning up. All the while, the public came in and took their seats. Awww kept searching greedily with his eyes. Anna Sergeyevna came in. She sat in the third row, and when Gurov looked at her, his heart was wrung, and he realized clearly that there was now no person closer, dearer, or more important for him in the whole world. The small woman, lost in the provincial crowd, not remarkable for anything, with a vulgar lorgnette in her hand, now filled his whole life, was his grief, his joy, the only happiness he now wished for himself. And to the sounds of the bad orchestra, with its trashy local violins, he thought how beautiful she was. He thought and dreamed. A man came in with Anna Sergeyevna and sat down next to her. A young man with little side whiskers, very tall, stooping. He nodded his head at every step, and it seemed he was perpetually bowing. This was probably her husband, whom she, in an outburst of bitter feeling that time in Yalta, had called a lackey. And indeed, in his long figure, his side whiskers, his little bald spot, there was something of lackeyish modesty. He had a sweet smile, and the badge of some learned society, gleamed in his buttonhole like the badge of a lackey. During the first intermission, the husband went to smoke. She remained in her seat. Gurov, who was also sitting in the stalls, went up to her and said in a trembling voice and with a forced smile, "How do you do?" She looked at him and paled, and then looked again in horror, and not believing her eyes, and tightly clutched her fan and lorgnette in her hand, obviously struggling with herself to keep from fainting. both were silent. She sat, he stood, alarmed at her confusion, not venturing to sit down next to her. The tuning up violins and flutes sang out. It suddenly became frightening. Seemed that people were gazing at them from all the boxes. But then she got up and quickly walked to the exit. He followed her, and they both went confusedly through corridors and stairways, going up and then down, and the uniforms of the courts, the schools, and the imperial estates flashed before them, all with badges. Ladies flashed by, fur coats on hangers. A draughty wind blew, drenching them with the smell of cigar stubs. And Gurov, whose heart was pounding, thought, "Oh Lord, why these people, this orchestra?" And just then he suddenly recalled how, at the station, in the evening after he had seen Anna Sergeyevna off, he had said to himself that everything was over and they would never see each other again. But how far it still was from being over. On a narrow dark stairway with the sign to the amphitheatre, she stopped. "How you frightened me," she said, breathing heavily, still pale, stunned. "Oh, how you frightened me. I'm barely alive. Why did you come? Why?" "But understand, Anna, understand," he said in a low voice, hurrying. "I beg you to understand." She looked at him with fear, with entreaty, with love. Looked at him intently, the better to keep his features in her memory. "I've been suffering so," she went on, not listening to him. "I think only of you all the time. I've lived by my thoughts of you, and I've tried to forget. But why? Why did you come?" Further up on the landing, 2 high school boys were smoking and looking down, but Gurov did not care. He drew Anna Sergeyevna to him and began kissing her face, her cheeks, her hands. "What are you doing? What are you doing?" she repeated in horror, pushing him away from her. "We've both lost our minds. Leave today. Leave at once. I adjure you by all that's holy. I implore you. Somebody's coming." Someone was climbing the stairs. "You must leave," Anna Sergeyevna went on in a whisper. "Do you hear, Dmitri Dmitrich? I'll come to you in Moscow. I've never been happy. I'm unhappy now, and I'll never be happy. Never. Don't make me suffer still more. I swear I'll come to Moscow. But we must part now, my dear one, my good one, my darling. We must part." That's a bit better. Having my eyeballs stabbed by the late afternoon sun peering through as it descends in the sky, preparing to nestle itself into sunset. Sunset. Swiftly fly the years. Right. She pressed his hand and quickly began going downstairs, turning back to look at him. And it was clear from her eyes that she was indeed not happy. Gurov stood for a little while, listened, then, when everything was quiet, found his coat and left the theatre. Chapter 4. And Anna Sergeyevna began coming to see him in Moscow. Since every 2 and 3 months she left S and told her husband she was going to consult a professor about her female disorder, and her husband did and did not believe her. Arriving in Moscow, she stayed at the Slavyansky Bazaar and at once sent a man in a red hat to Gurov. Gurov came to see her, and nobody in Moscow knew of it. Once he was going to see her in that way on a winter morning. The messenger had come the previous evening, but had not found him in. With him was his daughter, whom he wanted to see off to school, which was on the way. Big wet snow was falling. It's now 3 degrees above freezing, and yet it's snowing, Gurov said to his daughter. But it's warm only near the surface of the earth, while in the upper layers of the atmosphere the temperature is quite different. And why is there no thunder in winter, Papa? He explained that too. He spoke and thought that here he was going to a rendezvous, and not a single soul knew of it, or probably would ever know. He had 2 lives, an apparent one, seen and known by all who needed it, filled with conventional truth and conventional deceit, which perfectly resembled the lives of his acquaintances and friends, and another that went on in secret. And by some strange coincidence, or perhaps an accidental one, everything that he found important, interesting and necessary, in which he was sincere and did not deceive himself, which constituted the core of his life, occurred in secret from others, while everything that made up his lie, his shell, in which he hid in order to conceal the truth, for instance, his work at the bank, his arguments at the club, his inferior race, his attending official celebrations with his wife. All this was in full view. I can't believe I've drunk all that water, and I'm thirsty again. I'm going to be up all night, people of Earth. Up all night, dear Goddess. And maybe not, maybe I was a bit dehydrated. And all shall be well. Gotta think positive sometimes. I am healing, I'm highly successful in my own right. I'm truly deeply loved by a beautiful and available man of a reasonable age comparative to my own, who's generous and romantic and sweet and kind and passionate and un-COVID vaxxed. What else shall we ask for, people of Earth? who's non-confrontational, who's intelligent and knows how to conduct a conversation with a woman and stimulate her mind, body and spirit without creating harm or damage in any way. Toothless old hags being flirted with by pretty young boys from just south of Tel Aviv. Stimulating. I just finished saying in AJS that who would want an old hag, and then I get that treatment. The gods like to stir me up, you understand. My angel must have thought, we'll show her it ain't over till it's over, baby girl and baby boys. We'll show her she's still got it going on. Oh, you have to laugh. You really do have to laugh. I want to cry, it's so hilarious. Sweet. And he judged others by himself, did not believe what he saw, and always supposed that every man led his own real and very interesting life under the cover of secrecy, as under the cover of night. Every personal existence was held up by a secret, and it was perhaps partly for that reason that every cultivated man took such anxious care that his personal secret should be respected, people of Earth. Although I prefer to live my life as an open book with full transparency and no secrets and no sordidity, saves an awful lot of distress, stress and being smited by other people's spite. Just saying. After taking his daughter to school, Gurov went to the Slavyansky Bazaar. He took his fur coat off downstairs, went up and knocked softly at the door. Anna Sergeyevna, wearing his favourite grey dress. I hate the colour grey. I have a few things in grey, but I avoid wearing it. Tired from the trip and the expectation, had been waiting for him since the previous evening. She was pale, looked at him and did not smile, and he had barely come in when she was already leaning on his chest. Their kiss was long, lingering, as if they had not seen each other for 2 years. Well, how is your life there? He asked. What's new? Wait, I'll tell you. I can't. She could not speak because she was crying. She turned away from him and pressed a handkerchief to her eyes. Well, let her cry a little. Meanwhile, I'll sit down, he thought, and sat down in an armchair. When he rang and ordered tea, and then while he drank tea, she went on standing with her face turned to the window, and she was crying from anxiety, from a sorrowful awareness that their life had turned out so sadly. They only saw each other in secret. They hid from people like thieves. Was their life not broken? "Well, stop now," he said. For him it was obvious that this love of theirs would not end soon, that there was no knowing when. Anna Sergeyevna's attachment to him grew ever stronger. She adored him, and it would have been unthinkable to tell her that it all really had to end at some point, and she would not have believed it. He went up to her and took her by the shoulders to caress her, to make a joke, and at that moment he saw himself in the mirror. His head was beginning to turn grey, and it seemed strange to him that he had aged so much in those last years, had lost so much of his good looks. The shoulders on which his hands lay were warm and trembled. He felt compassion for this life, still so warm and beautiful, but probably already near the point where it would begin to fade and wither, like his own life. Why did she love him so? Women had always taken him to be other than he was, and they had loved in him, not himself, but a man their imagination had created, whom they had greedily sought all their lives, and then, when they had noticed their mistake, they had still loved him. And not one of them had been happy with him. Time passed. He met women, became intimate, parted, but not once did he love. There was anything else, but not love. It's too dark in here now. Now my eyes want to go to sleep. My beautiful birdie boys are so quiet, aren't they? You're such good boys. You should be playing. You should be full of activity. We've chucked their millet on the floor and thrown seeds everywhere. We were full of activity, Mama. You just were too busy reading to notice. Oh, I know. Now I have to clean that up. You did that just to watch me get down on the floor and Scooby-Dooby-Doo, didn't you? Yes. Get down on the floor in German. So it's an in-joke. Nobody else will understand that but me and one other person. Fuck off. Seriously. Right, where were we? Oh, you have to laugh. Fucking arseholes. Arseholes I have known and loved. Even platonic friends have been arseholes to me in their day. Thought I wouldn't notice, that they'd get away with it, that I would just put up with it till my dying day, that I was lonely and pathetic and they could stomp right on my face. The mama too says, no. Love a young lad flirting with me, hoping to sell $250 of his elixirs of love. Manuka, Manuka. Do you know where Manuka comes from? Yes, I said. New Zealand, where I come from. Hilarious. What foreplay. Bonded over manuka. Manuka is a kind of tea tree, a kind of very fragrant smelling eucalyptus scent, prickly as a sabra. He had me at hello. Oh, you have to laugh. Right, anyway, on we go and on we go. Oh, you have to laugh. And only now, when his head was grey, had he really fallen in love as one ought to, for the first time in his life. It's a bit like that, people of Earth. He and Anna Sergeyevna loved each other like very close, dear people, like husband and wife, like tender friends. It seemed to them that fate itself had destined them for each other, and they could not understand why he had a wife and she a husband. And it was as if they were two birds of passage, a male and a female, who had been caught and forced to live in separate cages. They had forgiven each other the things they were ashamed of in the past. They forgave everything in the present, and they felt that this love of theirs had changed them both. Formerly, in sad moments, I shouldn't laugh. I'm just moving in and out of ordinary reality, don't mind me. It was a good stir up today. Formerly, in sad moments, he had calmed himself with all sorts of arguments, whatever had come into his head. But now he did not care about any arguments. He felt deep compassion. He wanted to be sincere, tender. "Stop, my good one," he said. "You've had your cry, and enough. Let's talk now. We'll think up something." And then they had a long discussion, talked about how to rid themselves of the need for hiding, for deception, for living in different towns and not seeing each other for long periods. How could they free themselves from these unbearable bonds? How, he asked, clutching his head. How? And it seemed that just a little more and the solution would be found, and then a new, beautiful life would begin. And it was clear to both of them that the end was still far, far off, and that the most complicated and difficult part was just beginning. And thus concludes The Lady with the Little Dog. And I shall be back tomorrow with Love by Grace Paley. Which looks like it's a very short one tomorrow. So there'll be possibly 2 stories tomorrow. Let's see how long the next one is. Yes, I think we'll squeeze in 2 stories tomorrow. Right, blessed be, from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. I'm going to get cracking with this now. I'll have to look at it again. I want to really make it the best possible snake I can possibly manage, because I love that book, wooden book Peter Sloan and I made together. I'm giving him credit because he was the one that helped, you know, with the bandsaw, which made our lives a lot easier, trust me on that one, and helped with the bolts, and you know, he was very kind to me that day. We enjoyed working together that day. Sometimes you just need someone that holds your creative vision and is happy to manifest it and see you take it and run with it and follow that dream and make something lovely out of it. So although that friendship has since faltered, I have much gratitude for the many years that we were all friends and the lovely times we shared, and life goes on, people of Earth. But it was his suggestion to make that snake design. Excuse me. And I've been thinking about it and thinking about it. When I sit and watch TV, I look over at the box, wooden book, and I think, yes, I might just do that, and I might just do that, and now it's going to be done. I like that when I achieve things, people of Earth, instead of just psychedelic dreaming and having it all up in the ether. It's nice when I can pluck it and bring it down into 3D ordinary reality and make it happen. There's a lot of things I wish I could make happen, but that is one small thing that is in my control. Right, blessed be from sacred space. I need more water. Got my asthma's back, and I hope I stay well enough, don't catch any bad colds or anything unpleasant, because I've got to have that root canal done on Thursday. Well, that is 6 days away, so hopefully all will be well. I need to manifest better health, and health is wealth, people of Earth. And who knows what else I need to manifest. A rolling mill would be nice. And then they joked with me because I said that I wanted I wanted the paints for the enamelling, and they said, but then you'll need a kiln, and they gave me a little smile, because kilns are like $5,000-6,000 too. I said, yes, it's endless. I said, I'll be torch firing, and then they looked at me, because it's not so easy to get torch firing right, people of Earth, especially when you're a beginner and you don't know what you're bloody doing. So I have to make peace with the fact that there'll be quite a few failures learning how to do the enamelling by myself, but with my plumber's torch, propane torch, but which I have to buy because my old one leaked and what have you, ran out of gas, so I have to buy a new torch head and a new, you know, disposable propane tanks. So that's another expense. But anywho, when they teased me and said, and now you'll need a kiln, I was like, yes, I'm well aware I could probably do with a kiln as well. Everything I want's on the other side of $10,000. It's endless. And who am I kidding anyway, in a zombie apocalypse where no one bought my beautiful jewellery and I was just treated with contempt and condescension, actually. Who am I kidding, trying to be a jeweller? So we'll stick to reading stories on YouTube, which I do badly with my segues and meanderings and weird little cravings for water or food or whatever interruptions occur. Well, it is what it is, people of Earth. Those of you who find me entertaining don't mind, and those who mind ultimately don't matter, because they won't come to the channel, will they? So everyone wins. Win-win situation. I like win-win situations where everyone is grateful and happy and appreciative and satisfied with, you know, our individual contributions, and however we pluck down from the ether our dreamings and manifestations, people of Earth. So on that note, I bid you goodbye. Have a beautiful day, afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in the space-time continuum. And remember, as always, to never ever let the bastards grind us down. Bye for now.